relegation back in 1993. On top of that as well, the start of the La Liga season with Graham Hunter looking at a slightly damp squib of an opening weekend where there were comfortable wins for both Real Madrid and indeed for Barcelona. And we'll hear from yet another member, as slightly rough around the edges as they might be at this stage of the week, of the victorious Limerick All-Ireland winning side. As ever, you can get in contact with the show 53106 for 30 cent via text. You can find us on Twitter at Off The Ball, streaming live online on all your various destinations that you've come to know and love around about this stage. And I'm delighted to say as well tonight, on top of everything else, that we've been joined in studio by a very special guest. It's not often we get joined in studio by a hockey silver medalist from a World Cup, but we have been tonight. Chloe Watkins, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for joining us. One of the things you pointed out to us earlier on upon your arrival into the studio, as you see, everything is kind of adorned with memorabilia. You said that our hockey stick is actually rubbish.
I did notice it now. You're going to have to do better than that, I think.
See, we were unaware. We're just like, we just need to get some stuff for the studio. We'll have some, hockey paraphernalia. We'll get a world title belt in from Andy, an American football helmet. That's all grand. Kevin Kilban's autobiography, which is still available, for sale in most stores. That's there too. But our hockey stick is rubbish, you were saying. It's
a bit weathered, I think. So you could update it now and get a bit more memorabilia in here.
That's just showed it's been used and loved and kind of seen wear and tear
vintage
on the hockey pitch. Exactly. You see, if we had a regular pristine hockey, it'd just look rubbish. It looked like we bought it in.
Okay.
Now it looks like we've been out
using it.
Exactly. Toiling ourselves on the pitch for years and years trying to use it. But thanks for coming in. It's been weird, mental last 3 weeks, I'd imagine, for yourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a bit of a whirlwind, but it's been great, and to come home and see the reception that we've got. So, it's a bit sad to think it's been 3 weeks since we've been at the World Cup, but reality is kind of hitting us all now.
Listen, take in every other day that you've got of this, because it's just a magnificent thing to have been part of a World Cup final side, especially from an Irish perspective. These things don't happen, as you may have been reminded all that often in Irish sport. I
know, yeah. It's a bit crazy to be kind of compared to the Italian 90s and this kind of thing that gripped the nation. And yeah, we really did miss out on it all. But yeah, it's great to get hockey out there and to be talking about them in the same sentences as these other sports, Did
you get a sense of that in the middle of it? Because like you're saying there, you kind of, the one thing everybody says about Italian 90, especially journalists who maybe covered it during the course of that World Cup or during any kind of big tournament, is that when you're in the middle of it, you kind of miss out on it because you're just kind of going day to day covering it. You're in the middle of playing this thing, you're concentrating on getting ready for the India match, getting ready for the England match, getting ready for India again, and on you go. Was there a sense as you're going along of how much this thing was snowballing?
I guess after the quarterfinal we did notice a bit of a ramp up in on our phones and things like that. I think I put mine on airplane mode from Saturday until I got home. So we did know, but yeah, I think we were quite sheltered. We weren't really on social media, and we were just in our routine, our daily routine, and it was just going on the next thing on the schedule, going to the next meal, the next meeting, and we really didn't pay too much attention to it.
Was it behind the scenes? Because on the surface everything seems so relaxed and everything seems so amicable and amiable. Is it a slightly more rigid camp once you're over there in mid-tournament?
You are working sort of every hour of your day is nearly scheduled out for you. It's just the way it is, but we were very relaxed over there and we were enjoying ourselves. But yeah, I mean, it was full on. We were doing video work or meetings behind the scenes, and we had a couple hours maybe free time every few days, but it wasn't every day. And you're also tired as well, and you have to recover. So we had like recovery and that kind of thing to work into our schedule as well.
How did you use your downtime over there?
I didn't get very far because it was so hot, and I didn't want to be venturing out in the heat, but we went to the cinema one of the days. We literally were right beside the cinema, and sad to say we saw Mamma Mia 2, and it was, I won't be going back, but it's not my kind of film. But
who made the call on Mamma Mia 2? You can name names at this stage, it's fine. Legally you're on safe ground here.
I think it was Lena Tice or Anna O'Flanagan. It was one of those. So yeah.
Wow.
They can take the blame for that.
Their national hero status has been diminished over the course of the last 30 seconds. Although I'm sure there are Mamma Mia 2 fans out there.
It was nice to get out.
Want a better film next time.
Yeah.
Niall Colbert is here with us as well to bring us the news round tonight. You're a big Mamma Mia 2 fan.
I don't think I'd be going to see it in the middle of a World Cup silver medal run, but maybe on a quiet night down in Offaly I might partake. But,
There are worse things to be doing on a quiet night and off, let's be honest about that. It's like not the thing you're going to remember that World Cup run for, let's be honest.
No, exactly. It was just a one activity we got to do during the time, but as I said, most of our time was actually just either trying to recover in the pool or in bed, sleeping, and training as well. We had training sessions.
Have the family started treating you normally since you got home yet?
Oh yeah, back doing all the dirty chores and everything else. It's great.
Yeah.
It's really worn off.
You can't, it's mad. I got to the World Cup final. It's like, I'm a silver medalist. Can you not just a bit of leeway here? Like, no, doesn't matter in this house.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Well, thanks for coming in tonight. I know we'll talk to you a little bit more about the World Cup in depth a little bit later on. But we'll get cracking into the news round tonight, which is brought to you this evening at Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products. And as you might imagine, given how big this story was yesterday, we'll start with events out west in Carnacon.
Absolutely. The All-Ireland Ladies Club Football Champions Carnacon say they're absolutely devastated to be thrown out of the Mayo Senior Championship this year. The sanction was imposed by the Ladies Football County Board on Tuesday evening. They voted to expel them for allegedly bringing the game into disrepute. The sanction was imposed after 8 of their players refused to line up for the Mayo Senior panel just before their June qualifier against Cavan, which they did go on to win. In a statement released this afternoon, the club have thanked the public for their support and say they are in the process of preparing an appeal. It does go on to say that all club members want to do is play football, and they're hopeful that they will get the chance to do so in the not too distant future.
Unfortunately, it seems like we're going to possibly not get the details on this one, the reasoning for it, because everyone's gone dark for the next while, I'd imagine, on this one.
Yeah, I think it's hush-hush. Even the whole controversy about it in the first place, it was for reasons of player welfare, and we didn't really get to know exactly what was going on behind the setup in the Mayo ranks there. As I said, it's very sad. They're the county champions, they're the provincial champions, and they're the All-Ireland champions, and they're not going to be able to defend their title. And that's a crying shame, I think, in this day and age, that this is happening. And that it was the vote that went to the county board on Tuesday evening as well, that it was so unanimous as well against their favour. So that I thought that was a very interesting tale coming out of that meeting on Tuesday night. Yeah,
obviously enough, we've reached out to all sides on this one, but everybody wants to basically, I think, let the appeals process play itself out, and from there on in we'll kind of see where we go from there. I've had a text in on 53106 asked Chloe, how come Chloe isn't all smashed up? I don't mean that in the alcohol sense, I don't think either. I tried hockey for a season when I was 12 and my shins were wrecked. I got hit in the mush a few times, managed to break a finger and a rib. That's from Paul.
Yeah, I guess I've been particularly lucky. We did have a bad run of injuries in the squad in our lead up to the games. We had, a broken nose, one of the girls, and then a smashed eyebrow. It was all a bit disgusting, but yeah, luckily now I've only had one stitch in my eyebrow, so I've done well. Because
it does seem like with any sport that does involve an implement and running at the same time and a ball moving at pace, that you're going to get a clatter of something, and it's going to be fairly serious when it does happen. Yeah,
absolutely. You come out with bruises most days, but luckily splits and bigger breaks and things like that I've managed to avoid, but it does happen. It's a fairly physical sport now.
Touch wood, Paul, we haven't jinxed you there, and get back to it if you get the chance to take up hockey again. I think that would probably be your advice. Another decent day for Ireland in Berlin.
Yeah, absolutely. Jason Smith just claiming Ireland's 7th medal at the World Para-Athletics European Championships in Berlin this evening. The Derry sprinter claiming his 2nd gold of the Games. Shortly after his 200-metre success a few days ago, he got gold in the T13 100 metres final. Smith ran the race in a new championship record time of 10.65 seconds. That's his 18th senior championship gold in his career. He's undefeated in his Paralympic career as well. Earlier there was disappointment for David Levy in his debut for Ireland. He finished 7th in the 1500 metres T38 final. Finally this evening, the last athlete out this evening was Patrick Bonan. He finished 4th in the 800 metres T53 final.
One man is making his return to punditry, it would seem, if today's launches are anything to go by. That's Mr. Niall Quinn.
Oh, absolutely. Sorry, over my head for a second. Sorry, yeah, Niall Quinn, of course, has praised his former club Manchester City for allowing youngster Gavin Bazunu to complete his leaving cert before making his move to the Etihad Stadium. The Premier League champions agreed a deal with Shamrock Rovers this week, of course, to sign the 16-year-old goalkeeper. That transfer is believed to be worth an initial fee of €400,000 for Shamrock Rovers. It'll see the Dubliner go on a 4-year deal. And Quinn says letting Gavin complete his education first is a quality gesture from City.
Powerhouse like Man City, not alone will they pay 400,000 for him, They will also let him stay here and do his leaving certificate. I think that's huge. That's a big sea change. Not only have they seen the talent that this young lad has, they're willing to let him develop as a young man before he goes and throws his lot into becoming a top footballer. They trust our talent in how they've emerged from that 12 to 16 period.
A brilliant gesture from City to allow Bazunu to complete his leaving cert. You were an Irish international barely off the back of your leaving cert, which is quite incredible, Chloe.
Yeah, I got capped just after my leaving cert in July of 2010. So yeah, it was probably, you know, lucky enough that I didn't have to try and battle with exams at that point. But yeah, it was great.
But even still, it's not as if you're parachuted in from nowhere. Like, you were clearly a decent prospect from a certain level and would have been marrying that with your studies coming up as well.
Yeah, definitely. I played underage all through school, so under 16s and under 18s. But I was brought into sort of regional sessions with the senior team towards sort of 5th year in school. So, you know, you do learn to kind of manage your time, I guess.
That's got to be something like absolutely something completely different than most people would be used to, is trying to marry the idea that you're gearing up for introduction to the international setup in one of the most popular field sports in the world, while also trying to, you know, sort out honours geography.
Yeah, but I always found it was a nice break from the books, and it was always something that helped that side of things. I think, you know, people that give it up there's sort of a misconception around it, and you can always find ways of managing it, whether you have to kind of take the foot off the gas with the training closer towards the exams. But it's always something that I think, you know, people should try and keep up during those stressful kind of years in school.
Yeah, you had a bunch of different other sports as well that you were kind of not in any way rubbish at coming up as well. You played a bit of football too, I believe. I
played a bit of football with Cabinteely FC.
Oh.
Yeah, when I was probably before the hockey kind of took over my life. But yeah, I really enjoy football, yeah.
You're one of those people that's really annoyingly good at everything, aren't you?
No, I don't think so.
Come on now.
I don't think so. I just loved sport and being outside, so I think I just did everything I could.
Yeah. And you're a football fan yourself, I believe, a Liverpool fan, long suffering.
I am a smug Liverpool fan now.
Smug now?
Yeah.
There are people who would say that that's the worst kind of Liverpool fan you could possibly have, is one that suddenly has notions about itself that it's actually going to be their year this year. You're firmly of that belief this year? 2
games in, and I think, yeah, we can safely say we're going to win the league.
Yeah, we're going to touch on it later with John Giles. Now that they have something of a spine about their side, it seems like they're going to be capable of possibly something decent. Will you get a chance to go over? I know you've been over at Anfield once or twice yourself.
I have. I was over for the Stoke game last Christmas, which we won 4-1, and yeah, hopefully I'll get over again this year, because it was great to be in the Cup. But I do think, yeah, maybe try and look for a game around March or April. You know.
That's supreme confidence. That is actually verging on smug. That is verging on smug. Niall, loads of other action going on this evening as well.
Yeah, well, last we heard from the Europa League qualifiers, Celtic were level with Silva at half-time in the first leg of their playoff in Lithuania. It took Celtic just about 3 minutes to take the lead through Olivier Cham. Mikey Johnson, he's making his first European start for the Hoops tonight. He provided the assist for that one, but Silva equalised barely 10 minutes later. Burnley have just gotten their trip to Olympiacos underway. That kicked off at 7 o'clock, and coming up at 7:45, Rangers playing host to FC Ufa. Separately, video assistant referees will be in action in multiple matches on the same night for the first time in England next week. The technology will be in place for the League Cup second round matches at Brighton, Fulham and Leicester on Tuesday. VAR is also going to feature in Everton's game with Rotherham on Wednesday, and fans, of course, in the stadium will be kept informed about decisions using it via screens in the stadium itself.
We've seen VAR, or a version thereof, like there is video assistant refereeing in hockey, and it seems to work quite well. You are obviously happy enough with it?
Yeah, I think so. It's probably such a fast game that you need that extra backup, but I guess you see it in rugby as well, that they can kind of go to TMO, and it is kind of important, I guess, at the highest level to get the decisions right. So
yeah, the highest level thing is the caveat here, because we've even seen, I guess, with like things like Hawkeye and hurling, that there are only certain stadiums have it. Like, you'd only have it to a certain level, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
In hockey, would all internationals have it, or was it just a case of everything at the World Cup has it?
No, you'd have it at European Championships as well, and Olympics as well. So yeah, the top events would have it.
Have you ever been left feeling hard done by that it wasn't there, that you can't call upon an assistant referee?
Oh yeah, you do. You do get used to having that backup, and I think the referees as well will say that they like having that behind them as well, because it's such a fast game. It's difficult in the moment to get the right decision all the time. So
well, that's the thing. It's not there necessarily to point out mistakes. It's there to make sure that everything is right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So know another sad passing in the world of racing today as well, Noel.
Yeah, we heard that the legendary horse racing trainer Mick O'Toole passed away at the age of 86. Among his career highlights included Cheltenham Gold Cup win with Davy Ladd, and Mr O'Toole also saddled 8 winners at the Cheltenham Festival over the course of his career. He also enjoyed classic success with Dickens Hill, who will be remembered for winning the Irish 2000 Guineas back in 1979. O'Toole retired from training in the 1990s. Today, action took place at York. Sea of Class was the winner and the highlight of today's racing. The 7-4 favourite claimed the Darley Yorkshire Oaks, with Coronet in second and the Dermot Weld trained Azira back in third place.
We're going to hear from Graham Mulcahy in more depth as the celebrations of Limerick's All-Ireland hurling victory continue, and is well within their rights to celebrate for the entire week. But Graham was on with the hurling show with Shane a little bit earlier on.
Yeah, and really interesting thoughts from him. Mulcahy paid tribute to Limerick's younger players who were involved this year, who he says brought a winning attitude to the Treaty County setup. Limerick, of course, won their first All-Ireland senior hurling title in 45 years this past Sunday and have been celebrating ever since, rightfully so. Many of the players involved in the final, including man of the match Kyle Hayes, had already tasted success at under 21 level in previous years and had reached a final in the minor championship as well. Graham Mulcahy joined us earlier on Off the Ball. He says that winning experience helped the entire squad on the path to their own All-Ireland glory this week.
The group of young players that come in, they expect to win because they're being used to being winning at minor and under 21 level, and I suppose going into All-Ireland semi-finals and finals, you do need that bit of experience or that attitude, because when the likes of the Galways and the Kilkennys come back at you, you need to know that you've done it before and you need to have the confidence to know that you can do it, and I suppose that mightn't have been there other years, whereas this year the guys just have no fear.
We'll hear more from Graham Mulcahy just after 8 o'clock, I guess, tonight on the show, and it is available already as part of the hurling show with Shane. Already on OTB-AM this morning, one of the most enduring images that we've seen, and it played a part in Monday's show as well, it has to be said, was Cian Lynch's embrace with his mother Valerie, which took place on the pitch in the immediate aftermath of the full-time whistle on Sunday at Croke Park. And Valerie actually managed to join the lads on OTB-AM this morning.
Can I ask you exactly how you managed to get on the field of play when everybody in Limerick was trying to do it, but you actually managed it?
Well, now that's a big top secret, but I can tell you honestly, it wasn't planned or premeditated, but I had great assistance and a lovely gentleman, and it paid to be very small. That's all I can say. And there was no stopping me.
Did you tell him that my son's out there and I'm going out to see him?
I had a nice little word. I didn't even say my son. I don't believe in that my son nonsense. I said one moment, one hug, I'll be back. And then I got out and then I said, oh my God, I didn't know. I ran like the clatters. So I was delighted I got to Cian, because Cian actually was just standing and he wasn't breathing at all. And I gave him a slap on the back and rubbed him up, and he bawled into my shoulders. I had the moment and I ran back.
Yeah, and like obviously there's just this kind of instinct that kicks in that you just need to get there from your perspective.
Absolutely. I just knew he needed it, and by God he did. And I just held him and he released the tears and left a big sigh out, and I just slapped him and told him, go enjoy this. I'm so proud. And I ran off.
There's an awful lot of slapping involved there, but a lovely moment, Chloe, has to be said. One of the things that struck me, because I was out in Rio a couple of years ago for the Olympics, is that most of the people that were there to support the men's hockey side, who qualified for the first time, I think 108 years or something like that,
yeah,
it was the amount of family that are still directly involved. I mean, I know you've got, you're steeped in hockey history. You've got your dad and your brother have obviously played at a really, really high level, but everybody's parents, whether they played or not, are just directly supportive of the team and make that extra efforts to be there for them, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. It's probably quite a family-orientated sport, hockey, but it's great to get things to celebrate with your family. Like, they go through the lows when you have them as well. So, it is important. I think good on her for getting over the fence.
Were there any worries that Mum and Dad were going to hop the fence over in London and Lee Valley, or?
I wouldn't have been surprised, but no, thankfully they stayed in the stand. But, it is great to give them something to celebrate, because it's such a long slog for us, and they get the probably the brunt of it when you come in after training, after a long day of work as well.
And they go through the ringer watching you as well, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. We put them through 2 shootouts as well last week. So, you have to appreciate what they put into you as well.
It's fine though. You're good at penalties though, as we discovered. It's absolutely fine. There's no issue there. Speaking of Croke Park, we've a heavyweight lineup taking shape for our All-Ireland football final special at Croke Park. It's happening next Thursday, the 30th of August. A trio of top managers are going to be there. We're talking Kieran McGeeney, James Horan and Jim McGuinness. And on the night we'll also have Aidan O'Shea and Cora Staunton. That interview is going to be interesting. Peter Canavan and Dublin legend Keith Barr. This is an exclusive all-fair event, so it's not going to be happening on the radio, but we're giving you the chance to win a pair of VIP passes. You get the best seats in the house, a meet and greet with the guests, and the world famous Off the Ball goodie bag. Yes indeed. To be with the chance of winning, just identify our mystery voice who gave this reaction to our own Kevin Kilbane's performance in the recent rock and roll half marathon.
Sluggish, even lazy-ish.
Yeah, he wasn't a Mae Weston, I have to say.
Sluggish, even lazy-ish.
If you think you know who that is, text your name and your answer to 53106 for 30 cents. I will announce the winner later on the show. Or head over to offtheball.com/events right now to get your tickets before they're gone. And they will be quite soon, because it is a hell of a lineup. And a decent day as well, Niall, before we finish up for Padraig Harrington at the Czech Masters.
Yeah, he's well in contention following his opening round. He's just 2 shots off the lead. He shot a bogey-free 66 today to go into the clubhouse on 6 under par. Gavin Moynihan will restart tomorrow from 2 under par. Paul McBride 2 shots back on level par. Thomas Peters is among the clubhouse leaders on 8 under par.
And bad news if you wanted to get up to the Open Championship at Royal Portrush next year.
All the championship days sold out already. Around 190,000 fans expected to attend. But if you are in desperate need to attend, you can head to along to one of the practice days. Loads of tickets left, I hear there.
JP is quickly Googling how much practice day tickets are just outside as we speak, such as his golf nerddom. That's it for the news round. Chloe will be back a little bit later on to look back on that Hockey World Cup campaign and more besides. So sit tight, Chloe. We'll be with you in a while. Niall, you'll be through with us straight tonight to keep an eye on Europa League action as well and whatever else is going on, especially in the golf too. But on the way next, we're talking to John Giles.
Hi, I'm Mick McCarthy and I'm 2nd generation Irish and very proud of it. We're ready for a bit of verbal sparring, eh? What you got for me this morning? What pile of have you got for me this morning? I answer questions on anything, religious, politics, health, sexual problems. And if I haven't experienced them, I know somebody who has. So, Some people might think that's 2 points dropped, and I say some people can f*** off. Yeah, but I don't give a flying about and slaughtering. I told you before, did not. It's like, if anybody's not happy, write to me at goandgetyourselffettled.com. Have you come in the red suit and the white beard today, or what? Shall I come and sit on your lap and ask? Does your father know I'll bet?
I haven't told him yet.
I just wonder, do you? Sorry, the keeper's a big tart doing that because there's nothing wrong with it. I said, are you the physio? He said, no, I am the head of medicine technique. Oh, and I said to him, how wide's your door? Can you just put physiotherapist on it like everybody else used to do? And like I say, if I've lost anything, any friends, then they're lost, believe me. I am pleased on that, and I'm pleased I came off tonight, and I'm pleased I was angry, and I'm pleased I shed a few tears, and I'm pleased I kicked that coffee pot across the room. And I'm pleased I feel like I do now, because I know the old feeling's still there. And when that goes, then if that feeling goes, I'll pack it in.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products.
The Pat Kenny Show.
On tomorrow's programme, slower credit card payments, lost bank accounts. We'll take a closer look at the British anti-scaremongering publication, our relationship expert on the heartbreak of returning to work after maternity leave, and we have a panel of special guests looking ahead to the long-awaited papal visit this weekend.
The Pat Kenny Show.
With MasterCard.
Tomorrow morning from 9.
On News Talk.
At My Taxi Business, Europe's largest licensed taxi service, we're making business travel just that little bit easier. Sign up for a free business account and you can use My Taxi in over 70 cities. Enter a competition to win weekend breaks for two. The destination, you decide. Choose from any My Taxi Business country and we'll take care of the rest. To enter, visit My Taxi Ireland Facebook, Twitter or LinkedIn, or find out more at business.mytaxi.ie. Business travel made simple. T's and C's apply.
Hi, I'm Brendan Kavanagh, CEO of GDPRcourse.com. GDPR became law on Friday, May 25th. Are you worried that your business, volunteer organisation or club is at risk of being fined? We now run daily accredited GDPR practical implementation courses at our nationwide training facilities. This course gives members of your organisation tasked with GDPR the practical tools to implement and maintain GDPR compliance. Don't get ripped off by expensive consultants. Go to GDPRcourse.com.
You're in Ireland's hidden heartlands, on the shores of Lough Derg, ready to take to the water. Do you pick up a paddle, kayaking your way towards Killaloo? Try a spot of fishing, catching something light for lunch. Or stick to solid ground, enjoying the views from horseback instead. Ireland's hidden heartlands, yours to uncover. Find out more at discoverireland.ie.
Phoning for a taxi is a thing of the past. Be one step ahead with My Taxi Business. Control your company account directly online. For more info, visit business.mytaxi.ie.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Welcome back to tonight's show. It is Richie in the hot seat tonight. It is just coming up on 7:30 of a Thursday night, which means it is time to talk to John Giles. Plenty on the agenda tonight as well, with the second weekend of the Premier League season under our belts and the third en route, and a live game coming our way this coming Sunday as well on Off the Ball. Evening, John.
Evening, Richie.
How are you getting on?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. I want to start with Manchester City and their 6-1 demolition of Huddersfield, because we can move on to Liverpool later on, how they progressed. But Manchester City last year, Huddersfield was one of those games, oddly enough, whereby they struggled to break them down. But once they did, the floodwaters opened and they ran riot against Huddersfield on Sunday. Looked really impressive in doing so as well. Sergio Aguero grabbing a hat-trick, and they really looked like a side who picked up where they left off last season.
Yeah, well, if you judge them on last season, Richie, the matches they played against Huddersfield, actually they struggled to beat them. At Huddersfield, I think they scored in the last, very, very late in the game to beat them at Huddersfield, and I think they drew with them in Manchester near the end of last season. Actually, I think it helped to keep Huddersfield up. I think Huddersfield got a draw there, and then went to Chelsea and got a win or something. But
whether Sergio Aguero is going to be a starting striker for Pep Guardiola in Manchester City, he seems to have relished the challenge of stepping up to the plate there.
Well, I thought Guardiola was a bit hard on him last year, to be honest, Richie, on Aguero. But I think they called it tough love.
Yeah.
And I think he wasn't working as hard as Guardiola wants the forwards to work. Now, he's working much harder. I don't think he was happy about it, but he's working much harder than he did. And he's a better player for it. And that's all managers can do. Whatever club you go to is get the best out of the players that you have at your disposal. And, the goals that Aguero was scoring, you think, well, I think he's doing enough. But it wasn't good enough for Guardiola. And I think it's made him a better player. He's scoring more goals. He's working harder. I think it's something that he didn't really believe in himself. But now that he's chasing around a lot more, he's scored more goals and he's playing better than he did before Guardiola got there.
It's kind of a scary prospect when you see a squad that is already, packed with star names and has a lot of great performances under their belt. But when you start to bring the extra 5-10% out of the likes of Sergio Aguero, it becomes a frightening prospect for other sides in the Premier League that have to come up against that, because they're turning already really, really good players into even better ones.
Yeah, well, that's what great managers do, Richie. There's no doubt about that. And if you look at Aguero, I think his attitude was, well, I'm scoring the goals, I'm doing enough, I don't have to do any more. But it wasn't good enough for Guardiola, and he does work harder, and it hasn't stopped him scoring the goals. Actually, scored more goals, which makes sense, because if you get a forward that's chasing around Richie. It's very hard to mark them. You know, if they're staying up the field and they're not going to move, okay, they'll get a certain amount of goals. But if they're working away that Aguero is now working, he's even more difficult to mark. So he's, you know, to be fair to him, a lot of players would have got the huff and say, well, I'm not going to do that, I'm doing enough anyway. But that wasn't the case. He obviously wants to stay at Manchester City. They're a terrific team. He wants to be part of it. And when you're doing what he's doing, it's very, very hard to leave him out of the team. Don't forget, when Aguero first came, he left him out a few times, Richie. You know, till he got him going, and he you know, worked hard, and worked harder and harder, and he's done that. So there's no way, now when he's doing what he's doing, that he can leave him out of the team.
One of the other standout performances from City's victory last week, has to be said, was that of David Silva. Silva is one of those players I'd imagine that you find an absolute joy to watch, much like the rest of us.
He's brilliant. And I think what's happened to you, I think he was having a tough time personally, wasn't he, with the baby coming? It was a premature premature baby. So that could have been on his mind a little bit as well, you know, especially during the World Cup. But there was an enthusiasm and a freedom about him last week, as if he was delighted that's all over and he's back to playing football and without anything else on his mind. And he's a great attitude, Richie. I mean, he's been a terrific player for years and years. But, you know, all these great players, the next match is the next match. And whatever you've done in the past is gone. And he was, you know, he was terrific last week. He was man of the, I think he might have been man of the match, even though Aguero scored 3 goals. But he's always been a great player and a great team player. And very, very valuable player for Guardiola.
He's one of those players that if you watch him, it's almost as if time and space works at a different speed for him. Is that his vision, his ability to pick out a pass, his speed of thought seems to be working on a different plane to other people's.
Well, that's what makes great players, Richie. You know, they find space where most players don't find space. I always found with the great players, after the first touch of the ball, Richie, when they receive it, they've more room than they had before they touched the ball. And with bad players, the more touches they got on the ball, the less time they had on the ball. So it's also a positional sense, being in the right position, but first touch, making space where there was no space. It's what all the great players do. And he certainly does that. He's a joy to watch.
He almost seems ageless as well. We don't think of David Silva as being a guy who's ticking on into his early 30s and possibly getting into that quote-unquote latter stage of his career. But there's no kind of sense that the knocks have taken their toll. He's a player who's playing with, as you mentioned, a sense of freedom.
Yeah, I don't think he takes many knocks. If you look at him over the years, it's another thing the great players don't do. They don't get involved in physical duels. They keep out of the way, and they're able to, again, with their first touch, make the space. Of course, he's had a few knocks in his time, but generally speaking, you know, when you see a great player playing, you say, how does that fella get the time and space to do what he did? Well, first of all, it's positional sense to receive the ball, and secondly, it's a touch on the ball that makes the space for them. And if you look at all the great players, that's what they do. And he's one of the great players, I think. He's a terrific lad.
Going forward as well, I'm looking at the run of fixtures for the next, 3-4 weeks or so, and it looks as if it's kind of a period where Manchester City can make hay. You kind of presume that they're one of the better teams in the Premier League anyway. Obviously the record over the course of the last 12 months proves that. But when you see like their next 3 games are a lunchtime fixture on Saturday against Wolves, away to Wolves, they've then got home games with Newcastle and Fulham, away to Cardiff, and then at home to Brighton. Like City, you're going to look at them here, going to put the boot down and score goals to beat the band.
Well, you never know what's going to happen in the future.
True.
And they won't be looking at it that way, I can assure you. What the great managers do, they take every match as serious as, you know, if you're playing the lower teams, they've taken it as serious as if you're playing the top teams. And I know, like I think it was Shankly was saying, or I think Guardiola says, you reduced your mentality to the mentality that the teams at the lower end of the team have. In other words, effort, they're going to beat you for effort. But if you try harder than them and you beat them at their own game, then you make it easy for yourself. And that's what City did all last season. But I think he won't, and nobody, I don't think you should ever look ahead. Injuries, the next game.
Yeah, injuries and managing the squad, I suppose, is going to be Guardiola's greatest challenge this year. We've already seen Kevin De Bruyne ruled out for, who knows, possibly 3 to 4 months with a knee ligament injury. Claudio Bravo this week as well with a ruptured Achilles tendon. He's going to be out possibly until the end of the season. So they're looking at calling goalkeepers back from on loan. They've only got young Danny Grimshaw essentially as their backup to Ederson. So you're getting not necessarily, down to bare bones. That's not the worry just yet. But to keep everybody fit and keep everybody healthy, they have had a rather lucky injury profile over the last while. You don't want that from a Pep Guardiola perspective to try and turn against them this term.
No, well, you can only take the injuries as they come, and he has made signings to cover most of the positions in it, Richie. The squad is quite big. He bought Mahrez in the summer. He's got Mendy coming back at left back. The squad is quite big. Now, I think De Bruyne will be a loss to them, obviously, because he's the best in his position in the club. But if you look at them and the squad that they have in relation to most of the others, it's still a very, very big squad. I mean, and they obviously have that because you're not going to go through a whole season in the Premiership without getting injuries. And I think he's done the best that he can, Guardiola, to have the squad to cover the injuries that they're going to get.
Yeah, I mean, looking forward in towards Christmas, Kevin De Bruyne is probably going to be coming back into a side where Bernardo Silva's after having a run of 12 games and performed stormers in pretty much each of them, and he's going to have a difficult time to re-establish himself, especially coming back from a knee ligament injury like that. I mean, you don't come back with 100%. No,
well, the physiotherapy is brilliant now, and getting over injuries is brilliant, better than ever before. So, I mean, De Bruyne will come back into the team, obviously, if he gets back to full fitness, he'll get back in the team. But it's a long season. I mean, if they're going for the League Cup, they're going for the FA Cup, they're going to the Champions League, they're going for the Premiership, you need a big squad. And De Bruyne won't be playing in every match. None will be playing in every match. So that's the reason they have what they have. I mean, it's impossible to go through a season in the Premiership playing like 14 players or 15 players. It's an impossibility. First of all, the players get tired. They need a break in between, and then you got the injury situation. So I think Guardiola has got as big a squad as he would want at this particular time to get ready for the season. One thing
I was going to ask you about, and Sean via text 53106, if you want to get your questions into John, by the way, is the number. Sean's beat me to it. He asks, does John think that allowing cameras in and around the Etihad for the City documentary, that's All or Nothing, it's up on Amazon Prime, was an unnecessary distraction? Surely Pep should have put his foot down and vetoed it. I know you haven't seen the whole thing, John. Obviously you've seen snatches of it and heard bits and pieces about it. That step of allowing the cameras inside the inner sanctum of the dressing room, would it be something that you'd be in favour of, or something that you'd be a fan of?
No, I'd be totally against it, Richie.
Right.
I think what happens in the dressing room stays in the dressing room. And I can't... it was obviously some sort of a commercial decision. I don't think Guardiola would have initiated that at all. I'd say he wouldn't really fancy doing it. Now, what happens in the dressing room is very important that you keep it secret, not secret, but you say things in the dressing room, like Fergie, for example, when he was at Manchester United, would give them the hairdryer, as they called it, but nobody knew what he actually said. People say, he gave us the hairdryer, but that was in the dressing room. I mean, I think that's where some of the managers make the mistake that, Mourinho in particular makes a mistake of criticising the players publicly. And, we've seen that with Pogba and Luke Shaw and various players at Manchester United. It's usually, when managers are going to give you telling off, it's one-on-one. And in the dressing room, I've played under a few managers, Don Revie, who would go mad at sometimes in the dressing room. But that would stay there. Nobody would talk about it. I was very, very surprised that he allowed the cameras in. It might have been a commercial deal that the club wanted him to do, but it certainly wouldn't be anything I would be in favour of. In fact, I'd be totally against it, Richie.
There is a sense that we probably got a sanitised version, maybe, even of what went down, and that the cameras were allowed in every now and again. But I'm just curious, are these documentaries, because there have been a lot of them down through the years, even going back to there was a Manchester City one around 1980 involving Malcolm Allison and the troubles he had there, and John Bond coming in to replace him. Would you be a fan of watching these things, John, yourself at home?
I'd watch it. I mean, everybody wants to watch what's going on in the dressing room, Richie. I certainly would be very, very keen on watching what down in the dressing room.
Yeah.
But I don't agree with it.
Right.
I mean, I would be curious, and I'd think, oh God, I wouldn't do that. If I were the manager, I definitely wouldn't do it. But of course, I would watch it. But I would say at the same time, I think the manager's not correct, or maybe foolish to be doing that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm surprised. I haven't actually seen the whole documentary, and it might be sanitised, as you say, Richie. But at the same time, it's in the dressing room. Things happen in the dressing room that nobody knows about. There's rows that go on sometimes, and it's blown over. But the manager criticising players publicly, in my opinion, never works. And if you're really doing the job and allowing the cameras into the dressing room, there's definitely times that somebody will be getting a right telling off.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Thankfully, from a Manchester City perspective, last season seemed to work out okay for them. They seemed to come out on the right side of things, so there wasn't necessarily anything that they had to be chopping out to a huge degree there. John, we've still loads.
You don't know that, Richie, when you're doing it.
True.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's all right saying now, it was a great for Manchester City, because I don't think there was many rollickings going on in the dressing room, and there was very seldom anything went wrong. But you don't know that's going to happen before you commit yourself to it. I mean, he was lucky to get away with that. It was good play, but I just don't agree with it. I don't think it's right.
But you'll watch one gladly.
Oh, I'd watch it. Yeah. If somebody wants to do it. I mean, was it Graham Taylor years ago?
Yeah, the impossible job.
Coming into the England dressing room, I think he wanted to show everybody how they were going to qualify, and it was a total disaster. Total disaster.
Did anyone ever approach you to kind of do one of them in your managerial career?
I was approached a few times.
Yeah? At what club are we talking here?
When I was at West Brom as manager.
Yeah? Somebody wanted to come in and just kind of...
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't blame them wanting to come in. I mean, if I was a newspaper man, I was in the media, I'd want to get into the dressing room. But that doesn't mean I'd allow it if it was myself. I mean, the Guardiola and that, they want to do it. That's their own business.
Yeah.
But and I would certainly watch it, but I wouldn't allow it to happen. I don't think it's right.
Was it a BBC ITV kind of thing, or?
I think it was a local station in Birmingham, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And you just vetoed it and said no?
You said no way.
Yeah. Fair
no
enough.
way. I don't. And again, I mean, that's the business for journalists and the television. To get as much news and get in there as much as they possibly can. That's their business. I don't blame them for trying. But it's up to the manager to say, no, I'm not going to do that. Or the manager to say, yes, if he thinks it's good for the club. I just don't happen to think it's good for the club or for the team in any way whatsoever.
Okay, well, lots more to cover with John still to come. Get your questions in as well, 53106 for 30 cents. You can tweet us at Off The Ball too. We'll be looking at Liverpool's improved spine and also the rise of Leeds in the Championship, all to come after this.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
Bruce Betting Sportsbook, Casino and now Live Casino. Download the Bruce Betting app to see why for the Premier League, Bruce Betting are giving you more. With price boosts, live in-play betting, cash out and ACCA insurance. Make Bruce Betting your Premier League bookmaker. Bruce Betting, in-store, online and now on your phone. Please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
Bargain Town, summer bet sale, now on. Don't miss today's newspaper or Facebook for our fantastic specials. That's Bargain Town, first in Dublin for beds.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
Welcome back. John Giles is still on the line. A load still to cover with John over the course of the next quarter of an hour or so. Monday night away to Crystal Palace used to be the kind of fixture that would give Liverpool palpitations over the course of the last 3, 4, 5 and even beyond kind of years. But they knocked off a 2-0 victory with relative ease on Monday night, John, and have looked very, very impressive so far. As I mentioned at the top of the show and the top of this piece here, that improved spine for them seems to be working wonders, at least in this very early stage of the season.
Oh, definitely, Richie. First of all, they got a goalkeeper who looks very, very reliable and very, very good, which they haven't had a good goalkeeper for a few years. They got Van Dijk at the back, who's made a huge difference for them. And Gomez has come into the team, one of the younger lads who was in before. I think he was injured and looked very, very good alongside Van Dijk the other night. They've got Keita. Is that how you present him?
Keita, yeah, Naby Keita, yeah.
It looks like it's going to give them a bit more skill and a bit more invention in the middle of the field. Shakira from Stoke, I think, will be a good player for them over the season when they'll be having to make changes. So I think Liverpool have done probably the best business in the summer than any other club. There's no doubts about that. And if anybody's going to challenge Manchester City or beat them for that matter, I think it's going to be Liverpool.
It's kind of testament to a club who identifies their targets and pretty much does everything they can to secure them. Obviously, Van Dijk took probably 6 months longer than they maybe anticipated to get over the line. They secured his signature back in January for 75 million. Naby Keita, they had to wait for a year before they could get them off RB Leipzig. I know they made maybe attempts to get him before then. And even Alisson, I mean, they may have had their eye on him from last season, but they've decided to make their move. It shows that moving at the right time can actually get you the targets that you want.
Yeah, well, I think it's a combination of the situation that Klopp is in, that he obviously has the confidence of the board. They're all working together. He's got the players that he wants. I'm sure that they were the players that he wanted in, and they were the players that they needed. So that's when a club is well run and well managed, and that's happened at Liverpool. They're definitely going to be a threat this year, and they're much better state than the. I mean, don't forget, as you said, when they were winning 2-0 against say Crystal Palace last year or the year before, it could end up 2-2 or 3-2 against them. There was no solidity in the defensively. Now it's a different story. They look like a real team now, Richie, and I think they'll get better and better as the season goes on.
Yeah, that security of having a goalkeeper at the back who isn't afraid to come and claim things. His distribution is obviously quite well. Virgil van Dijk as well, who just looks immense. Jurgen Klopp after the game on Monday pretty much saying that they probably underpaid, given his abilities, at 75 million for Virgil van Dijk, which I'm sure will do Virgil no end of good when he goes in to kind of renew his contract in a year.
Yeah, but Klopp's already said, well, you know, managers love to talk about their players like that, and he's quite right to do so. I mean, they needed to do that, especially the goalkeeper. I mean, you saw what happened in the Champions League final. Goalkeepers can say for Manchester United, there's no doubt that when their goalkeeper can save them, say, 10 points a season. I mean, Liverpool's goalkeepers over the last couple of years have been losing them 10 points a season. That's a 20-point difference between a good goalkeeper and a bad goalkeeper. And this fellow looks a good goalkeeper for Liverpool, and he'll be worth the money if they do their stuff in the way that you're expected to do it, like Van Dijk is doing it now. They're well worth the money, Richie, and that's why managers pay big money, as long as they're paying big money in the right way. And I think Liverpool is buying in the transfer close season here has been very, very good.
A lot of people have been drooling over the performances, and I know, again, it's a small sample size of the first two games of the season, and West Ham and Crystal Palace are hardly world beaters in their own right. But Naby Keita, after his arrival from Leipzig, being able to bring the ball from back to front in midfield, that kind of dynamism they've had around there, it looks like a presence in midfield that Liverpool haven't really had over the course of the last 2 years or so.
Oh, it's a few years since they've had a player like that in the middle of the field, Richie. You know, a creative player. I mean, they've had players who have been up and downers, good-hearted players, but didn't have the creative force that this lad seems to have. And that was needed badly as well. So, you know, their buying has been good. There's no doubt about it. They bought well, and if you buy well, then you're going to play better as the season goes on. It's all about your judgment in the transfer market. You know, you can pay some clubs have paid a lot of money for players that haven't done it, Richie. There's plenty of those about. But Liverpool look like they've bought well, they spent their money well, and I think it'll pay dividends for them during this particular season.
Would you be confident that Jurgen Klopp is still, you know, able to wring something extra out of this side this year?
Yeah, well, I think he just needed the players. I think Klopp, we all talk about Klopp's philosophy. Klopp's philosophy is go, 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 go. We're going to attack these teams. We're going to score goals. We're going to beat these teams. But he never had any real emphasis on defending. Now, if he puts that right, which I think he has now, then now you've got a team. In other words, if the lads up front do their stuff and they get 2 or 3 up, and the lads at the back are doing their stuff, you're not going to be drawing 2-2 or 3-3 like they have done in the past. And that's points dropped all over the place. So I think he's got a complete team now, and it won't stop them scoring goals.
Yeah.
They still score the goals, but they won't be losing the goals that they've lost over the last few seasons.
It's a scary prospect if that happens to continue for them in terms of their form. I mean, they're an ideal candidate for how to do your recruitment over the course of a summer, whereas someone like someone like Tottenham is a kind of a case in point of, maybe not necessarily how not to do your recruitment, but at least do something. A lot of people very, very surprised that Spurs managed to not sign anybody, at least of note, over the course of the summer. You'd imagine that would leave them vulnerable going forward throughout the season, because I don't think anybody viewed Spurs as having the deepest of squads last term.
No, I think it's a financial situation there. I think they've run into big trouble with building a new stadium, Richie. It's not finished yet, and apparently it's £30 million more because of the fall in the pound and all the various things. So I think it's a disappointment for the Spurs supporters. Now, Pochettino was talking a load of rubbish last week, where he said, at the end of last season, he said, well, the chairman has got to be brave now, and you've got to buy players, and we've got to do this and doing that. And he was in the paper last week saying, the newspaper guys picked it up in the wrong way. He said, I meant brave by not spending money and bringing the young lads in, which is a total load of nonsense.
Yeah.
I mean, the Spurs are going to they've got a very, very good first, 12, 13 players, but they haven't got the strength and depth, there's no doubt about that. And they're in the position of Manchester City are in. They're in the Champions League, going to be in the League Cup, the FA Cup, the Premiership. You need a big squad of players, and they just don't have that. I mean, I think it's inevitable that they're going to have injuries. So say the likes of Harry Kane or Dele Alli or any other their important players gets injured, it's going to be very, very difficult for them. And I can't see them doing as well this year as they did last year. They've got a very good first 11, first 12, but after that, it's going to be very, very tricky for them.
Yeah, and you'd imagine the uncertainty about their home and when they're actually going to get to move into the new White Hart Lane can't be the most ideal scenario for the players either.
No, it's not easy. It's not easy for the club because when you're starting the season, you want to be going in like Liverpool have done, got the players in, everything's settled, ready to go. It's anything but at Spurs. I mean, we don't know when the new stadium's going to be ready. They're going to have difficulty with fixtures. They haven't bought a player. They haven't improved the squad. So I wouldn't be optimistic about Spurs this particular season. I think it's going to be a big struggle for them this year, Richie.
John, one of the things we always get asked about when you're on, obviously enough, is to, the text come in and go and ask John what he thinks of Leeds so far this season in the Championship. They've made a hell of a start under Marcelo Bielsa. I know you were looking on with their draw with Swansea, which is their worst result of the season so far, but there are shoots of hope, certainly, from a Leeds perspective, that things are looking on the up and up over there at the moment.
Oh, definitely. Well, first of all, I think they've got the ownership situation worked out, and the manager seems to be good. He's an experienced manager. Well, that's your start. Without a good ownership, you're not going to have a good team. Nothing is run properly, Richie. I think they have that now. I think they've got the manager seems to be good. I watched them against Swansea, and I was quite impressed with them.
Yeah,
I think their work rate was good. They passed the ball well, much better than they did last season, and they looked like a team. Now they've made a good start, as you say, but that's a long, long, hard season in that Championship, Richie, as we all know.
Oh, yeah.
But they've got the ownership right. I think they've got the coach, the manager right, and they're the basics that you have to have a successful team. So hopefully now, from myself, one of the old Leeds players, and the old supporters, that they'll come good. Because the support they get there is fantastic, Richie, at the at Elland Road. The atmosphere is brilliant, and they're a team I think that deserve to be up in the Premiership.
Yeah, I know you were saying you were over there in the early part of the season this year, and just the air of enthusiasm that seems to be around Elland Road is pretty palpable.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's like I was up for the Paul Madeley
memorial kind of stuff
match with paying respects to Paul before the match against Stoke, and I couldn't believe the atmosphere in the ground. Well, funny enough, when you played, you see, Richie, you only come out on the pitch ready for the kick-off, especially in my day.
Yeah.
Whereas you wouldn't see the build-up. You weren't aware of the build-up to the game in the stadium. But I don't know whether it was like that in my day or not. But the build-up before the match with the crowd and the songs they were singing and everything else, the atmosphere was absolutely brilliant. And this was the first match of the season. So it could only get better. And I think the support that they have, like if they did get back into the Premiership, I think it only holds 40,000. They'd get 40,000 every match, an enthusiastic crowd. So I think they're one of the teams in the country, in England, that the right way, and I think they seem to be doing the right way now, Richie, which is good for the whole Leeds supporters.
Yeah, too smart Latin Hibra is what they always say, John. A decent start is half the work. Joan Raheny is one of the many people who's been on to us, getting on to you to ask about Leeds tonight. So there you have it, Joe, and thank you for your text, 53106. John, thanks so much for taking time out this evening. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Richie.
Cheers.
See you then.
John Giles
Bye-bye.
there. On the way after 8 o'clock, we'll be checking in with Graham Mulcahy of the victorious Limerick hurling squad, and we'll be talking Cyborg's return to the UFC, all on the way next.
Join that conversation on Facebook and Twitter.
Be honest, no one likes doing laundry. You don't wake up going, ooh, I can't wait to put a wash on. But even if you do, you'll still appreciate the new Samsung Quick Drive washing machine at Appliances Delivered. It cuts washing time by up to half, but keeps the same cleaning performance. And it's got the Add Wash door, so you can add things when the wash is on. I'm looking at you, Stray Sock. Maybe that's why Samsung won the 2018 Which Large Home Appliance Brand of the Year award. The new Samsung Quick Drive, now available at Appliances Delivered.
On 106 to 108 FM.